if I can remind you all of this most important age-old guiding principle and rule. By your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. Why is this so important? Because once having said it, you can't take those words back. Even in an argument with your wife, partner, or another loved one, if you use words to punish or to force your will upon the other person, you can say how sorry you are afterwards, but your words will remain with that person always. Let's see what the description the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary gives to the term bigot, and I quote, "A person obstinately or intolerantly devoted to his or her own opinions and prejudices, especially one who regards or treats the members of a group as a racial or ethnic group with hatred and intolerance." End of quote. Firstly, this is almost the most derogatory, contemptuous, prejudicial and disrespectful term you can use against another person. Secondly, it displays an attitude and a sentiment or view that the person using the term cares nothing about people or their feelings. Thirdly, in relation to the context in which it was used by Brown following the public exchange which took place minutes beforehand, it provides full confirmation that this person is entirely two-faced, deceitful and less than genuine in his public rhetoric as opposed to his private feelings and rhetoric. Fourthly, in relation to the context in which the comment was made, it is, figuratively speaking, a complete stab in the back for the lifetime political support and loyalty of an entirely innocent person with no direct involvement in politics whatsoever. Fifthly, it demonstrates in completely clear, unequivocal and unambiguous terms that the support by this lady and people en masse for the Labour Party in the UK means nothing. No appreciation, no thanks, no humility, no respect, no empathy, and a total disregard for the feelings, views and judgments of ordinary people. In other words, you are nothing more and nothing less than a pawn that can be moved around the chessboard of electoral constituencies to provide the political elite with the power to win, control and use for their own political and financial ends. So help me God, if this is not the absolute, indelible and undeniable truth, please tell us so. There is not a person in the UK who knows full well that outside election campaigns, Labour and Conservative politicians care nothing for the views, opinions and involvement the people are accorded on matters of policy or government. The classic case will always be when over 1 million people marched in the streets against Blair and Bush going into Iraq. The Conservatives are just as guilty for having no regard whatsoever for the democratic will of the British people, and there is still no remorse forthcoming from any one of them. To the contrary, they still want constant, never-ending war, and still try to perpetuate the lie, which is the fabricated war against terrorism. The Conservatives think that by not saying anything about 7/7, they can get away with not being found complicit in the event. Their silence is the giveaway. Their failure and refusal to demand the most exhaustive and thorough investigation in British history into every minute detail of 7/7 is how we know, and all we need to know, that it was an inside job, absolutely. The truth of the matter in relation to the credit crunch is that just because they turned off the tap of credit in the United States didn't mean they had to do so in the UK as well. The British banks and the Bank of England could very easily have left interest rates low and not restricted the availability of credit in retail banking. As long as the wheels of the economy are turning and business has the turnover and profitability to meet its commitments on loans as and when they fall due, and the average family can continue to meet mortgage and other repayments, there is no reason to restrict credit or call up loans, which simply buries people alive in foreclosures and forced mortgagee sales. If you go to Chapter 2, Why is the Global Fund so relevant to me, of the Global Fund Index page, you will note in paragraph 11a what the Global Fund is doing to change banking forever. It would be remiss of me not to revisit the question of entry to the euro. Please go back to the earlier documentaries on the British election where we dealt with this matter at length. As you can see, not only do you have nothing whatsoever to fear from the euro, the failure of the Labour government to join the euro in 2001 has cost you, the average person in the UK, at least €187,740, or nationally £5.22 trillion. How much more do you want to lose? If any subsequent UK government should be so foolish as to devalue the British pound to try and reduce the deficit, your further and additional losses to the above will be astronomical. On the matter of law and order and crime in the UK, the Radio 4 Today programme at 8:06 a.m. Tuesday the 27th of April 2010 carried a piece with the lead, and I quote, "We live in a country more dangerous than when Labour came to power." End of quote. The Global Fund canvassed this question at length in the most recent movie documentary entitled British Election Bombshell 2010. Those revelations referred to full confirmation from the horse's mouth, so to speak, of a complete abrogation of duty and responsibility in the role and part of the police in pursuing, reporting and reducing the level of crime. A culture where the integrity of police has been wholly compromised. We demonstrated why the official crime statistics bear no relation to the actual level of crime people are experiencing and suffering from in reality. As a consequence of the above, police have forfeited the right and the function of prosecutors. The Global Fund will be making submissions to the new government after the 6th of May for a significant extension to the powers of the Crown Prosecution Service, the CPS. This extension of powers will primarily make it the responsibility of the CPS as a completely independent arbiter to the police for the prosecution of all criminal offences. The police will be required to gather all relevant facts and evidence. The case will then be presented to the CPS to be reviewed as to the merits for prosecution and the specific nature of the charge the alleged offender should face. It is further proposed that crimes of murder or espionage resulting in the death of a person be categorised into degrees. That is, murder in the first degree, second degree, and so on. It will be further proposed that as an acknowledgement by the law and Parliament of the value placed on human life and the warning and importance of the individual to take full responsibility for his actions, and as the only proper and effective deterrent and punishment, it should be enshrined in law that a person, even from the age of 10, who is convicted of the crime of murder in the first degree shall be imprisoned for life without the possibility of parole.